Hi everyone, welcome back to Lifting the Lamp. So tonight I'm going to be talking about the tarot, briefly what it is, what kind of cards there are, how to use it, and I'm going to be giving a demonstration of a very simple 2-card spread to give you an idea of how you can use the tarot to uncover information about the past, present, or future that was previously hidden to you. And by using the tarot to gain more insight into our life, it can be a great aid to us spiritually and in general. So there are a lot of oracle decks out there these days, but the tarot deck is the original and the best, in my opinion, oracle deck that there is. It's very ancient, going back to early medieval times. Some people say that it goes back even further to the legendary Book of Thoth in Egypt. I've used a few different oracle decks in my time, and the tarot is still my tried and true oracle deck for performing divination and finding out information that I need to know when I need to know it. So in the tarot deck, there's 78 cards in total. You've got the 22 cards which people are most familiar with, which is the 22 trumps. And each trump card symbolizes an archetype in its own right. Which is relevant to some part of the human experience or some force of nature, you might even say. In addition to the trumps, there are 4 other tarot suits: the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles, which is sometimes called the discs. Each one of those represents one of the 4 classical elements. Wands for fire, cups for water, swords for air, and pentacles or discs for earth. And in each of the 4 suits, you have number cards numbered 1 to 10, and you've got a total of 16 court cards, 4 for each suit. You've got the kings, queens, knights, and pages, or in the Thoth tarot, the knights, queens, princes, and princesses. These court cards are where kings and queens and jacks come down to us from in modern playing cards, and the 4 suits of the playing cards really originate from the 4 suits of the tarot. And so each of those different cards has got a different meaning depending on the combination of the suit and the number, or what court card it is. So I'm not going to go into detail, obviously, about the meanings of each of the 78 cards, but that's roughly how the tarot deck is structured. So each card represents a different circumstance you can be faced with, a different type of life event. For example, sometimes a card can represent a person, an individual, and usually when a person appears in a tarot spread, they appear as one of the court cards. And even though each tarot card has a set meaning, there's multiple different ways that you can interpret each card depending on what position in a spread it's in, what kind of a reading you're doing, and so on. So there's a lot to remember with tarot, and so it can help to have a book handy where you can have a go-to reference for the meanings of cards, rather than trying to memorize all the meanings, which you can do, but even when you've been doing tarot for a very long time like I have, it can be useful to be able to refresh yourself quickly by having some sort of guidebook that can give you a quick interpretation of the meaning of a card. Often a tarot deck will have this as part of the deck, a tiny booklet with the meanings of the cards, but I've found that that can be a bit hit and miss, but you can find other resources which can give you a better, more helpful interpretation of the meaning of each card. But understanding the meanings of the tarot cards and their different positions in the spread is only the first step in successfully reading the tarot cards, because, as I've said, there's some interpretation to be done, and at multiple points in the reading you will need to be guided by your own intuition. One of those points is when you're drawing the cards, and another point is when you're trying to fit the symbolism of the card with some circumstance in your life that it's trying to tell you about. So it's very important to be guided by that intuition and learn to tap into that if you want to be a successful tarot reader. The way that intuition works is it's really about connecting the dots, taking little fragments of information that the mind has and then filling in the gaps and making inferences and taking in as much information as we can in order to try and reach those inferences and connect as many dots as we can. And often that means just letting the mind tell you what it wants to tell you and letting the unconscious show you what it wants to show you. And all of those intuitive processes are facilitated by the tarot cards. Okay, so I'll demonstrate a 2-card spread in a moment. But before we get to that point, it's very important to decide what you want your reading to be about. Now, you can do a general reading about what is the next year going to look like. But if you're going to do that, I would recommend doing a spread that has more cards in it, such as a 10-card spread, like the Celtic Cross spread. Because if you're doing a general reading, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of different issues that might arise, say, in the coming year or for whatever period the reading is in. And you need more cards to tell you what's going on. If you have a simple spread that you're doing, then the ideal sort of questions to ask the cards are very simple ones. For example, the 2-card spread we're doing is very good for a yes or no answer. So if you have a specific circumstance, a specific decision that you need to make, then doing a 2-card spread can be very useful for getting an answer to which of the 2 decisions you should make. If you've got a situation before you where you've got to make a decision about doing one of 2 different things, or doing something and not doing it, then a 2-card spread is very good for that. So that's why I'm deciding to do the 2-card spread to show you. That means I need to pick a specific event that's in the future that I want to do a reading on. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to do a reading on the possibility of me entering a new job. There's a new job that I could be entering in the next few months from now, and I want to know whether taking that job, if the opportunity arises, would be a good decision to make or a bad decision to make, taking account of the rest of my life circumstances. So I will demonstrate how to do a reading with 2 cards right now, using that question as our example. All right, so this is the deck that I'll be using. This is a basic Rider-Waite tarot deck. I used to be very fond of using the Thoth tarot deck, but these days I prefer the Rider-Waite deck because the imagery in the Thoth deck is just too much. It's too abstract. Whereas the pictures in the Rider-Waite deck, you can get a very clear picture of what's going on. It's very obvious what's going on in the card and what sort of story it's telling you. So that's the deck that I'll be using, and it's just the most common deck that gets used these days. So before I go any further, the first thing that I always do is to put my hands over the cards like this and make a silent invocation just to clear the energy of the cards. This is something I usually do in my head. I'll say something out loud just to demonstrate that to you. I'll say something like that I ask that these cards give me true answers to all of the questions that I ask in this reading. And just make that silent affirmation. Just imagine the cards being cleared and then the deck is ready. So the next stage is you want to shuffle the deck. So this is something that I've never been very good at. But you shuffle the deck, and as you're shuffling the deck, you just internally repeat the question that you want to ask the deck. So in this case, and I'll do it out loud again for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm asking the deck, what is going to happen if I choose to enter the new job that I'm thinking of versus if I don't. Please give me an answer, one way or the other. And then once the deck is shuffled, I always split the deck like this just to complete the process. Now the cards are ready. Okay, now the next step is you need to choose your cards. This is a point where you're must be guided by your intuition. So you can spread the cards out like this as an example. You might just spread them all out like this across the table or whatever surface you're working on. And then you can just, what I usually do is I just do a scan. And I can't really explain it, but you'll know when it's time to stop. You'll just know when you see the right card. So this is the first one. So this will be on the left. This will be representing what will happen if I don't take the job. So let's see which direction that's gonna. I'll just turn them over if they're reversed. I don't prescribe to the reversal of cards and taking that as a different meaning. I know some people do, but for this video, I'm just going to assume that whatever direction the card is when I draw it, the original meaning of the card is what I'm meant to be reading into it. And this will be if I do take it. If I do take the job. So I'll put the deck back here. Okay. So if I do take the job, the future will be, oh dear, that's not good. That's not what I was expecting at all. Okay, well, this is, in my opinion, one of the worst cards that you can get. The Three of Swords, as you can see, is a heart with 3 daggers stabbing into it. And as the symbolism of the card suggests, it represents heartbreak and pain. The last time that I drew this card was when I failed an exam in law school and had to repeat a year. So it's not a good sign at all. Which actually really surprises me, because I thought that job would be a fresh start. But the card is telling me something different. And if I don't take the job, it's the World. And this is a very positive card. So this is this is a card of new beginnings in a sense, but it won't be because of making this decision here. I'll still be moving on to something new, but it'll be something else rather than this job. And it's quite a positive card. It's got a lot of potential. Think of the saying, the world is your oyster. And it's the world, if you think of the world, something that is global, it's all encompassing. So it's very much a card of completion, of completeness, of being in a good situation in a very holistic sort of a way. So I didn't have to go to my book to get additional meanings. I just managed to riff off the top of my head there, so that's great. I am very surprised by this reading. It is, it's not what I was expecting at all. And that's how you know that the cards are working. They will call you out and they will reality check you. You'll have assumptions about what the future is going to look like, what's going to be really good and what's going to be really bad. And sometimes your assumptions will be correct, but sometimes the cards will say, actually, no, that's going to be a disaster. And that's what they're telling me tonight. So I don't know what the alternative is to start somewhere new, if not here. But I guess that is something that remains to be seen. But if I continue to be guided, as I have tonight, and I listen to the signs, then I've got a lot to look forward to. So we'll just see what happens. So I've possibly just averted making a really terrible life decision by doing a simple 2-card reading. So as you can see, it's very good. It's a very good skill to be able to have. And now, by watching this video, hopefully you've got enough of an idea to do your own simple tarot spreads. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. Have you had any experiences with tarot spreads before? If so, leave your comments down below. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Please subscribe to support my channel. It really helps me when people subscribe. And yeah, so if you want to support me more, that's a really easy way of doing it. Just click that subscribe button. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.